Hello, hello. This is Jumbo Commander, and I have a competitive deck for you today. That's right, the focus of this deck is 1v1 Commander with the partners Vial Smasher the Fierce and Kraum, Ludwig's Opus. I'm going to take you over to the tapped out list where I've done something pretty cool. I've taken a bunch of winning decks from EDH tournaments, and I've compiled them together to find out what they have in common, and I'm going to discuss what it takes to make a competitive 1v1 EDH deck. So this is what the list looks like on tappedout.net, and you don't have to squint and try and write everything down. You can just simply click on the link in the description. It'll take you right here so you can see exactly what I'm talking about, and download this list, customize it, do whatever you want if you want a competitive Smasher list. Speaking of which, Vial Smasher is a very powerful card, and allowing you to play blue, which is the majority of this deck. Kraum, Ludwig's Opus. He also has haste, is pretty powerful in his own right, but this is really a Vial Smasher deck. Let's take a look at the mana base because it's easily the most boring. It's what you expect in expensive stuff. Dual lands, fetch lands, and, tapped lands, and Cavern of Souls. A lot of really strong stuff, but really customizable, really truly a one of each. And a few people have customized the land base a little bit, but it's pretty standard. Down below the mana, we have our counterspells. We have 14 of them, and that's a lot. One important piece of information is that we have some counterspells that we don't typically see in normal multiplayer EDH. I mean, I love Cryptic Command and Force of Will, but Force Spike would be awful in a multiplayer game of Commander, but in this format, one-on-one Commander, it's incredibly potent, and most of the decks are playing a Force Spike to try and disrupt the early game of your opponent, because everything in this is so fast. The mana curve is so low to the ground. We'll take a look at that a little bit later. But also, another card that's very telling is Mental Misstep. Again, a card that is really not worth a card in traditional Commander is a powerhouse here, having very successful decks all running Mental Misstep. Very interesting inclusion. One of the most expensive counterspells, because, let's see here, is Mystic Confluence. 5 mana. That just shows you how powerful this counterspell is, because Misdirection you cast for free basically, and same with Force of Will. But Mystic Confluence, the only way to cast it is for the full 5 mana, which is just showing how powerful this card is. I'm really excited about it. Next category we have is Disruption. 26 elements of Disruption, and it really varies. Let's talk about a few different categories within Disruption. The first one is massive creature removal, things like Damnation. It's right there at the top. And there are a few of these effects. Damnation is one of them, but we also have things like Slag Storm or Toxic Deluge, or even Fiery Confluence, which can do a lot of damage to a lot of different creatures. And then we have sort of our targeted removal, which we have a few more pieces of. Dismember, Dreadbore, Electrolyze, Fatal Push, which is a new inclusion. There are some older decks that didn't have this, but I'm pretty sure they didn't have it in their deck list because they couldn't have it in their deck list. I think that this belongs, so I made an executive decision to move it into the main deck. Other pieces of disruption for single creature, things like Flame Slash. Notice as well that these are just really low mana cost, and that's what we're trying to do. Dismember for 1, Fatal Push for 1, Flame Slash for 1, Lightning Bolt for 1. Very, very powerful cards. Next we have sort of the hand disruption, cards like Duress, or Hymn to Turok, or Inquisition of Kozilek, Thoughtseize. Even the Liliana of the Veil is there to sort of disrupt your opponent's hand and maybe take out a creature. So that's kind of the way this disruption works. Attack the board, attack the hand. If things get a little bit out of control, wipe everything out, because our creature count is very, very low. In fact, let's look at a few of our creatures. In this disruption category, we have Venser. and that's it. We have a few creatures that give us excellent card draw. Moving down here, we have what everyone agrees on, which is great, Jace Vryn's Prodigy. He belongs in this deck. Everyone is playing him. And the next card that everyone's playing is Snapcaster Mage. Look at all these spells. We want to snap them back. So those are the two creatures that seems to have everyone playing. And then there are a few other that have gained some popularity that are a little bit interesting. Augur of Bolas and Bedlam Reveler. I think Bedlam Reveler is very interesting. I'm super excited to have him. This 3/4 prowess that can kind of end a game, but also refill your hand, being really cheap. I think it's really interesting. I want to play with this card. One other example of card draw that everyone agrees on is Jace the Mind Sculptor. It's a no-brainer. But a card that's gaining a little bit of advantage, like people are playing it more and more, Chandra, Torch of Defiance. I think that this is a very interesting inclusion. I've loved playing Chandra, and hopefully she kind of solidifies herself as a really good sort of 4-mana tempo value planeswalker. Planeswalker that's more popular than Chandra, but not quite as popular as Jace, is Dak Faden. The card draw on this is great. Gaining control of an artifact can be incredibly powerful. I love it. Moving on to this last category is True Name Nemesis, which is a very powerful card, especially in 1v1. I didn't quite know what category to put it in. I think it's just good enough to just have a spot in the deck, and that's why so many people run it. I mean, I would want it in my version of the deck, so I put it in the 1-win condition. But to be honest, the 1-win condition is really this Vial Smasher. These two partner commanders are great win conditions. They allow you to do damage while controlling the game. It's a very powerful and potent combination that's really taking out a lot of 1v1 commander decks. Okay, so like I mentioned before, this is the average deck. I put all the decks together, made an average deck of the most popular cards, but everyone had their own little spin on it. Everyone had their own little bit of includes. So I put the less popular, but still seen in more than one of these competitive decks over here in the maybe board. So if you don't like one of these other cards, for example, I don't actually like a Pyrokinesis in this deck. I just don't feel like there's enough red cards, to be honest. I could be wrong, but I think I would cut it, and I think I'd replace it with something better. And actually, in my mind, I think I really, really like in my competitive decks Vendilion Click. It's one of my favorite sort of instant speed threats in one of my decks. It's card draw, it's a threat. I love Vendilion Click, so I think I would cut this and throw in Click. That's my own preference in my own playstyle. So what you can do is go through, and especially in this maybe board, and sort of find some little pieces that you think are key to include, because other people have been successful at these cards. Ancestral Vision, again, very successful to be able to draw 3 cards. The Strix is great. I'm just going to go past these manas. I think the fast lands are really good, especially when you need to come out swinging. I think some people did cut the dual lands and put in fast lands. The dual lands are clearly better. But as you see over here, Spirebluff Canal, this belongs, this found a spot. So one thing I think is very important is being able to have blue early, because blue is a lot of your interaction, blue is a lot of your counter spells. So blue might be an important beginning point. Some people are playing City of Brass. Collective Brutality is super versatile. Same thing with Cyclonic Rift. Sometimes this can just win games, although I hope that we never get up to 7 mana, and hopefully we don't let the board go so crazy that we have to return more than a few things to your opponent's hand. If you have a high island count, Daze could be good. Diabolic Edict, Far and Away. Goblin Dark Dwellers is really cool value, 2 for 1. Hero's Downfall had a very high count. Planeswalkers are very dangerous, and Hero's Downfall just deals with them. Incinerate was in here. There was also Searing Spear and Lightning Strike. There we go. So I believe that there were a few that were a little bit more burn heavy. So you can go a little bit burn heavy and cut out a little bit more of the disruption, maybe a little bit more of the removal, and go that angle. I think that's a definite possibility. Intuition, super powerful. Also, Mana Confluence, just like that City of Brass up there. Negate, oftentimes Negate just counters what you want to counter anyways. Radiant Flames is a very efficient, I mean, your mana is going to be perfect in this deck. So very efficient, 3 damage for 3 mana. Repeal replaces itself. River of Tears is just interesting and a pretty card. I mentioned Searing Spear. Shriekmaw is a low evoke cost, but also can be a threat later. I mean, it's just 2-for-1s are great. More lands. Snap is a free bounce spell. Snuff Out is a free spell. Spell Fierce and Spell Snare. Again, both of these were very popular, but they just didn't quite make the cut. Submerge, if your opponent controls a forest and you control an island, you can just play it for free. I think Submerge is great. I think Submerge is excellent. Definitely maybe one for your metagame, I don't know, but it's super cool. And more lands. Tainted Pact, very powerful in a lot of decks. Lets you get some awesome selection. Tech Edge, Thing in the Ice. I like Thing in the Ice. I wish I could run Thing in the Ice and Bedlam Reveler. Maybe I just want more creatures than spells in this deck, actually. Oh, Torrential Gearhulk. Man, I think I'd go with a creature-heavy version of this. I could go with Creature Burn? I don't know. It's going to be hard to find cuts, really, because you don't want to drop too far down on the counter spells. Like, deep down inside, like, I want to, like, take out Force Spike or Mental Misstep and put in Torrential Gearhulk. But that's not a good switch. You need to be able to interact really early, and even though Torrential Gearhulk is a ton of value, I don't know if it belongs in this deck, and you need this early interaction. You know, you need these Izzet Charms and Logic Knots and stuff in order to really disrupt your opponent, because they're going to do some broken stuff. I mean, mentioning the mana curve, I mean, look at this mana curve. We have, you know, a quarter of our deck, you know, it's like a bunch of our deck is in 1, 2, 3. And then there are a few of them in 4. Notice some of our most powerful Planeswalkers are at 4. And then, by the way, the things at 5, a few of them we know can be cast for way less than that. Force of Will and Misdirection are both 5s that you really cast for free. We know that Bedlam Reveler is an 8, this 8 up here, that we cast for way less. Okay, there's a lot of these that are technically have a high mana cost, but we cast them for much less. Another one of them is this Treachery, which again costs 5 but is kind of free. Murderous Cut, which will cost for way less than 5. So one of the key tenets of a deck like this is its low curve. And so you have to be able to have your mana come in and be perfect so that you can disrupt your opponent very close to the beginning of the game. You need to be able to have interaction very, very soon. And you need to be able to keep your momentum going with card draw and disruption. You know, it's about putting your opponent off and making sure that you can stabilize yourself. This kind of deck is very close to Modern. If you look around, a lot of these cards are really powerful and popular in Modern. You know, just going up the list, Murder's Cut, Liliana Veil, Lightning Bolt, Kolaghan's Command, Inquisition, him would be popular if it was allowed. Like Go for the Throat, Flame Slash, Fire and Ice, like, you know, this Fatal Push, Electrolyze, Duress. All of these are incredibly powerful Modern cards because Modern has the same tempo as this 1v1 EDH format. And so what's really interesting is you get to play very competitive, very low to the ground, very interactive, disruptive Magic. Okay, but also there's a lot of variation to it because your deck is so large, and you get some access to some very powerful cards like Hymn to Torok. Oh my gosh, Hymn to Torok, it's crazy. Some of the more broken cards are banned in this format. You know, you don't see a Soul Ring in here. Interested in a full ban list for 1v1 Commander, I'll put a link in the description. But overall, I think that this deck is very cool and very powerful, and this is a format that I think a lot of people can really get excited about. Anyways, guys, I want to thank you very much for tuning in to this Vial Smasher and Ludwig 1v1 competitive deck. I hope you liked it, and if you did, go ahead and hit that like button and comment below. I want to know what you guys think about the competitive Magic Commander format. Talk to you later, bye.